So the motivation for this video came from an image that I recently posted over at my Instagram. It was basically a still from a bunch of B-roll that I'd shot for the upcoming OnePlus 6 review. But a lot of people, including me, liked it so much that I really wanted to make it a thumbnail of a video. So welcome to a bunch of perhaps great phone photography tricks that you may or may not be knowing. So first up, the panorama. If a picture speaks 1,000 words, a panoramic shot speaks 1,000,000. That's what I think of panorama. Even though it's an underdog in phone photography, there's something in a panoramic shot that just makes it beautiful. In fact, if you have a good panoramic shot, then it's basically just waiting to be hung up on your wall. Although I believe that panorama is for a select type of shots. It usually works best on landscapes like bridges and sceneries, especially when the subject is at a greater distance. If the subject you're panning through is not at a greater distance and very near to you, then the extremes just stretch out. So you can actually manually walk without having to tilt the phone so as the image does not stretch out, which means you can also use it while traveling in a car. Just point it outside the window, tell the driver to drive slow, and try not to shake. Oh, and you can also clone yourself in the same panoramic shot, which is pretty cool. How do you do that? I'll actually figure that out yourself. Next up is stability. See, stability is so important and so much desired that there are literally $200 worth of accessories made out just to keep your phone stable, because there's probably nothing worse than a shaky image. Although to be honest, in this case, there's not much that you can do just by yourself, apart from using both of your hands or trying to rest your phone against a couple of books or something sturdy. And if you think none of those ways are effective, although they should be, you can get a gimbal like Smooth Q or a DJI Osmo. And they're actually pretty fun since they definitely do more than just keeping your phone stable. But the drawback is they're really expensive. So a tripod is a much more economical choice, like this Manfrotto tripod, which sells at just 1.5k. Also, as a bonus advice, if you're traveling in a car or an auto rickshaw, never try brake support of the seat or the window or the door while shooting. It sounds super cliche, but it's something that we all tend to do. Just stay by yourself unsupported. It'll start hurting in a couple of minutes, maybe in a couple of seconds, but in the end it will be all worth it. Next, the aspect ratio. An aspect ratio is basically the ratio of the height to the width. It can be 1:1, which is basically a square, 16:9, 18:9, 19:9, or actually anything according to the display size and resolution. So technically content is shot or preferred to be shot in accordance to that display's aspect ratio from which it is most likely to be consumed. So if a TV soap has to be shot, it'll be shot in 16:9 because most of the TVs have a wide 16:9 aspect ratio. The same thing applies with smartphones. Since most of the times you'll surf the images and videos captured from your phone on your phone, there's basically no reason why you should not shoot them in your display's aspect ratio in the first place itself. Once you do that, the entire screen will become the viewfinder and the images will utilize each and every pixel of the display. It's just beautiful and highly recommended. Next up, angles. Angles are basically opportunities for the subjects to tell about themselves. Every side has a story. And although there are lots of angles like point of view, low angle or high angle, almost all of them fall under the umbrella of close-up, medium or wide. I personally am a big fan of the intimacies of a close-up, the ambition of point of view, and the establishment of a wide shot. Although using the right angle for the right shot requires experience, exploration, and just a tiny bit of common sense. So the only tip that I can give you in this department is to keep an eye on other people's work and also to shoot photographs of anything in ways you've never seen them before. It could be fun. Next up, RAW. Most of the smartphones store images in .jpeg format, which is basically a compressed form. So when you edit that, you're basically editing a compressed file. And so every time you save it, you're further compressing an already compressed file, which is basically just degrading the quality of that file. RAW, on the other hand, is not a compressed form. It's basically an untouched, unprocessed image straight out of your camera's sensor. So no matter how many times you edit it, it won't degrade in quality. And when you combine RAW with manual mode, it translates to complete control of your camera sensor, which makes you do incredible things just from your smartphone. So for example, if you want to shoot in low light, you want to toggle on RAW and manual mode, just set the focus on your subject, bring down the ISO as much as possible and snap the pic. Now it will look absolutely terrible when you capture it, but in the editing room you will be able to bring up the highlights and the shadows by quite a good amount without degrading the quality. That's a lot of potential in there. But this also brings me to the last but not the least point, that is the editing. Editing is basically like cooking the raw materials. It not only makes the product tasty, but it also kills the germs. For the most part, it can be done within the stock gallery or photos app of the phone, but for much diverse controls and features, I recommend Lightroom. With that, you can not only control the hue, the saturation, and lightness of the primary colors of the image, but you can also get presets made for the desktop app and use them on your phone. So you can jump from something like this to something like this. Although I don't really have a set style or look that I always go by. And that's mainly because of two reasons. First being, I usually forget how I edited the previous photograph by the time I edit the next one. And secondly, because the changes and the edits that I made in my X image may not apply to the Y image. That's why I don't really have a uniform Instagram feed. So in my opinion, don't fall in the trap of a category or genre. Just keep experimenting and be surprising. I'll talk to you in the next one.